kind of the man, the myth, the legend.
Well, whatever.
You know it all. You know
the
it all.
original dean. I believe I referred to him as our pillar dean and asked the dean.
What? The pillar dean. Okay. Yes, the pillar dean. Because
Whoa,
we do.
what happened?
Somebody clicked something.
Okay.
I didn't click anything.
I don't think I did, but okay. Maybe
I did. Anyway, I'm going to go live here on Instagram. We should be rocking and rolling over there as well.
Nice.
And Rachel Grubbs, MCAT test prep experts, pre-med experts, everything experts. All around awesome person. What's going on?
It's going. Thanks for calling me an awesome person. I'm feeling mostly awesome today.
That's good.
Ooh, hey, that's better than the alternative.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Missing Veridia.
We are.
Wah, wah, wah.
I'm super impressed with all the questions already coming in.
Yeah,
Everyone wants to come hang out with us today, which is great. We are here for you to answer your questions live here every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern.
Yep.
We are Team Mapped. If you don't know what Mapped is, it is a technology platform to help guide you on your path to medical school, PA school, in the future, vet, dental, all of the pre-health or health professional schools. You can go create a free account right now. You can try all of the goodies at Mapped for 30 days using that coupon code on the screen, 30 days free, and after those 30 days, you can keep Mapped for free to continue to track your GPA and all of that good stuff. But if you want to chat with Mapped advisors inside of Mapped or track a bunch of other things and work on your applications all within Mapped, then sign up for a subscription.
Yeah.
That's what we got. Let's rock and roll.
All right.
Roll.
Let's see. Something's going here.
Leanne asks, hi, do med schools take average of every single time you retake a course? If so, when should I stop retaking classes? I will be retaking for the third time now, never received anything above a B-. This is a very common and confusing kind of aspect of the medical school application. And I think potentially comes from some lingering, because it's only been a few years now where the DO application used to replace your older grade with the newer grade, not your worst grade with the better grade, but an older grade with a newer grade. And so potentially if people are out there Googling, trying to figure out, maybe they stumble across some of the old stuff from the DO application. But every class that you take goes on your transcript in the application. So if you got a C, then you get a D, then you get a B, then you get an A. You took it 4 times. All of those classes go in. And just because of math being as wonderful it is, they average out. All right. That's just the way it works. But the medical schools aren't averaging that one specific class. They are, and maybe randomly they are, behind the scenes. They're like, we want to look at your Orgo. I see you retook it 3 times. You got a D and then a C and then an A. We're going to average Orgo because maybe there's one medical school admissions committee out there that does prereq grades per class. I highly doubt that, but hey, anything's possible. But yeah, every class is averaged. Every grade is averaged on the application, no matter what class.
Yep.
Yeah.
Math.
Yep.
Yeah, and like you said, it's common. It's one of the most popular questions we get on Mapped is, do I have to really list them all? Yes. All of them.
You do. And, I would say, I would also say to Leanne, Leanne, Sarah, Leanne, this is a time for reflection on your part. To really, I understand your question with regard to, do they average them and all that mechanical stuff, but this is a really important opportunity and necessity for you to really reflect on, why am I not being successful in this class? Why can I not get above a B-?
Yep.
And that's what the medical schools are really going to want to dive into and understand better what's going on here. that this particular class and maybe others for you or whatever are really providing such a challenge that it's making it difficult for you to score in really well in the class. And so I do think within yourself, with the help of advisors, both academic and your pre-med advisor and perhaps others, you really need to dive into understanding better what's going on and why this is kind of doing the thing it's doing for you.
Yeah.
Excellent point.
There you go.
All right.
Esteem asks, I wanted to know if the Cope Health Scholars Program would be a credible way to receive clinical exposure since they require a fee to volunteer at their hospital. So, Scott, how familiar, Rachel, how familiar are you all with Cope Health Scholars?
Zero.
So I'm very familiar with them. Rachel, what about you?
I've Googled it and read a little on the website, but I don't know. I don't have any firsthand knowledge.
Yeah, so I'm familiar with them. I'm friendly with the people that run it. Students like Cope Health Scholars, and yes, it's a little strange because you pay a fee to go, and it's a little weird because they're actually getting paid by the hospital to place workers in the hospital. So it's a weird business model. But students are getting the experience and the exposure that they need to continue to confirm that this is what they want to do. So if it's available and you want to do it, go for it. It's a very interesting business model. The hospital is basically saying we need bodies. So they pay Cope Health Scholars to find those bodies. Cope Health Scholars charges you a fee to apply to be one of those bodies. So it's interesting.
So what I would do if I did that, what I would do on the application is I would say I volunteered at X hospital and leave out the whole thing about Cope and not. I mean, I don't know, Ryan, what you think about that, but my feeling is a lot of admissions people aren't going to know what Cope is to start with, and if you volunteered at X General Hospital, then that's the most important thing. And what you did at that hospital and the fact that you're in this Cope Health Scholars Program and paid a fee is sort of irrelevant.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd worry about it either way, but that is definitely one way if there's a question, because this specific question that Esteem asks is a credible way to receive. So there's some potential concern that medical schools are going to be like, wait a minute, why did you pay to do this? Although you have programs out there like Stanford, and I criticized them to their face at the UC Davis conference in person a couple of years ago, the last one that was in person. Stanford has set up this like, come be a scribe with our Stanford doctors, and they charge a crap ton of money for it. I'm like, this is ridiculous. So you're basically paying to go work for free. And that to me is completely unethical.
What they say.
In my mind, it's illegal because there are, right, in the business world, you always think about, come be a free intern, but that's illegal if you're doing things that support the business, which medicine is a business, then I don't know, it's weird. Unless they get away with it because they're not for profit. Whatever.
Yeah, to me, the bigger challenge is creating an opportunity like that then just once more makes it harder to become a doctor if you aren't
that's exactly. Yes, I agree with that.
But yeah, with Cope, I agree. There's something about it that seems odd to me. Like, why are you paying people money to volunteer? But I think what you're really doing is paying for the time of organization and research. Someone's hooking you up with the opportunities. Someone's helping you get into your CPR certification class. Someone's getting you all your immunization shots that you're going to have to get before you go to med school anyway. So it's just getting a whole bunch of things off your to-do list with one program instead of having to research and do each one individually. So yeah, it seems fairly benign to me.
Yeah, so they charge an application fee and then a tuition fee as part of it, and I think their reasoning behind it is and don't quote me on this, but I think the tuition fee goes towards an actual certificate that you get from, I think, UCLA maybe. So their reasoning behind the application fee, the tuition fee, is the academic side of it. But don't quote me.
All right. Well, Cope Health Scholars, you got some airtime from us today.
Yes.
Not sponsored. It was just a question.
Hashtag not sponsored. I know lots of people have done it and lots of people that love it. So, Sean, is this clinical? In our next installment of Is This Clinical? I check in patients, screen for COVID, take them to their doctor, provide companionship to them since no family is allowed in the clinic, and usually it's their first time getting chemo. Dr. Scott Wright, what's behind door number 1?
I would call it clinical. I think you could make an argument the other way, but I would say if I was putting this on the application, I would call it clinical.
Yeah. Rachel, what do you think?
Yeah, COVID screening. That sounds clinical to me.
Yeah, COVID screening, hanging out with them. It's a little bit less than what's your insurance card? Okay, go have a seat. See you later. And this is a good one where students very much will have this where it's like, is it, isn't it, kind of on the border. And then you look at their activity description and it's all the admin side of things. Like, oh, just focus on the clinical side of things.
Right.
You are the director. I used this analogy the other day. Or metaphor, whatever it is, the other day, because a director's job in a movie is to tell you, the viewer, the watcher of this movie, what to look at. Right. And so I don't like, if you go on YouTube, you can do, if you have like a VR headset or even on a regular computer, 360 camera and 360 videos. I don't like them because as the viewer, I don't know where to look. I don't know what's coming next. And the director tells me where to look. That's where the camera is focused. They're telling me, watch this. There's something happening here. And so you are the director of your activity descriptions. Let the reader focus in on what you want them to look at.
Absolutely.
Excellent point.
Yep. Oh, we can't hear you anymore.
Oh, Ryan went away.
Hi, sorry. Distract.
There we go.
NM323. I understand TMDSAS schools can see where I've interviewed at. If I have interviewed at one school and send them an LOI, letter of intent, I'm assuming, before pre-match ends, does that look like a sign of desperation? Dun, dun, dun. Scott, TMDSAS expert.
So yes, you're accurate that the schools know, the TMDSAS schools know where you've applied within TMDSAS. They know what your status is at each school, whether you've interviewed or been made an offer or, those types of things. They know all of that. And, but they don't know what your status is at non-TMDSAS schools. So any osteopathic schools that are not TMDSAS or any allopathic schools that are not. So I don't think that a letter of intent is going to look like a sign of desperation. I think, you say it the way it is. I interviewed at your school. I enjoyed it. I think I would do well within your curriculum, and I would come if you made an offer. And so I think you give the schools maybe sometimes a little bit more credit than they're due in terms of how much they're really going to ponder these types of questions. And so I think, you just do it and they're going to take it at face value. So I wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah, there was a Reddit thread recently about like, don't send update letters because that's the surest way of getting a rejection 2 weeks later. And a bunch of people chimed in and be like, yep, that happened to me. That happened to me. Right. I think as pre-meds, we need to start practicing science. The correlation doesn't equal causation.
Correct. It's amazing to me how students can go through 4 years of science curriculum and not get that.
Yes. Oh, well.
Yeah, well, it's funny. It's the irony of we're always saying your story matters, but man, do people love anecdotes, right? And anecdotes are great for getting a feel for a situation, but they are not accurate sample sizes of data.
That's right. That's exactly right. Maybe you go back and take stat again.
N. Would schools theoretically offer a student less money in scholarships merit aid if you have submitted a letter saying that you fully intend on going to that school if accepted anyway? So a kind of a good follow-up to our letter
Right.
of intent conversation. This comes up all the time when students on Reddit, Student Doctor Network, etc., are talking about one of the downfalls potentially of sending a letter of intent is basically like, I am professing my love for you, therefore you don't have to do anything to get me to come. Then the argument is, why would I do that if the school will then withhold scholarship or bait really to say come to us and here's why you should come to us because we're giving you 20 grand. What do you think?
Well, I mean, so my opinion here is, and I can just be honest about how we did it at Southwestern and what I know of other schools and how they approach these questions. That there is, yes, merit aid and scholarships in part are for the purpose of attracting students to their school, and I say in part very, very intently because the schools are not just, I mean, what I guess what I'm trying to say is, at least in my experience, the schools are also trying to do what's right by the students, and they're looking at the students and saying, who really represents what we deem to be as valuable for merit or for scholarship. It's not all about just who can we get with this money. It's who can we benefit with this money. And I think that what the medical schools are trying to do is reduce it for all students as much as possible, the amount of debt that they're going to incur during their experience. And so I don't think that, I understand the question, but I don't think that it makes the schools sound very sort of kind of, I don't know what the right word is. You know what I'm saying, Rachel? I mean, it makes the schools sound very evil or very, focused completely on their own interests. And that's just not how it works.
Right. Yep.
So that's my opinion. I just don't think that you should worry about that part of it. Theoretically, I guess that's possible, but in practice, I really don't think that's how it works.
Yep.
So.
All right.
Yep.
Let's see here. So FIDAT asks, most of the med schools I looked up have Orgo II as optional, aka they require 2 years of chem, Gen Chem 1 and 2, Orgo 1 and Biochem. Why is Orgo II still pushed as a prereq? I don't want to take it if it's not required. Thoughts? So yeah, my thoughts, FIDAT, are be careful when you say most of the med schools you looked up. I mean, there's 236. That might be true for the schools you've looked up. Generally, the rule of thumb is that you still need to get a year of general chemistry, a year of organic chemistry, and a semester of biochem. It does vary. There are some schools that are now saying exactly like you said, 1 semester of Orgo, 1 semester of biochem. I've also still seen schools that are saying 2 years of Orgo and aren't actually requiring biochem, although they might recommend it. So there's a lot of variation here. And I think for now, you should assume Orgo II is required unless you have looked up every single school you intend to apply to and seen that for your personal school list, and none of them are expecting it.
Yeah, and I would also say that your undergraduate institution might require 2 semesters of Orgo to even get into biochem.
Yeah.
So, regardless of what the medical schools require, you might be required at your undergraduate institution to do the 2 semesters in order to even take biochem. So there's a lot of factors here.
Yep. And good luck, because Orgo's tough.
Right.
All right. Tirth says, I will start my junior year in winter 2022. I've been a bio major, but now I want to change it to biomed engineering because I'm really interested in it. Do you think it's too late to change my major?
Wow, that's a tough question, because particularly into an engineering major, this is a question that you really need to delve into with your academic advisor at your undergraduate institution. It
Mhm.
a lot, and the only reason I say that is because in my experience, a lot of engineering majors are almost 5 years to start with. And if you're
Mhm.
coming into that as a junior, it may shoot you into 5, even 6 years to even
Mhm.
just to do that. So, Terth, you really need to visit with the academic advisor at your undergraduate institution and explore that with them and find out in terms of what the medical schools are going to look like. No, it's not too late. But, in terms of how long it's going to take you to finish, and depending on what state you're in, there may be state requirements that dictate how many credits you can accumulate before you start getting some onerous other things tacked on. I know here in Texas, if you get above a certain number of credits at the undergraduate level, they start charging you out-of-state tuition rates.
Mm.
So just be very careful with that, and really explore that at your school.
Yep. And good luck.
Yeah, good luck with that.
And if it really interests you, it might work out. But yeah,
Yeah.
just making
Yeah.
sure you know what your plan is.
Yep, absolutely.
I should unmute myself. Hello, I'm back. Anthony asks, do medical-related senior year classes such as advanced anatomy, pharmacology, and medical terminology make for a stronger application in the eyes of the admissions team? One of my favorite types of questions. I put this in the genre of, tell me what to do. No, Scott, I did not have to go tinkle. This is a random comment pop up. We have a visitor at the house. I just had to go.
No.
The category of this is tell me what to do to make me stand out, right? And when you think about it, it's like, and this is also along the lines of, oh, if I come in already with medical knowledge, the medical schools will like me because they can put their feet up. They don't have to teach me as much because I already know it all, right? What are your thoughts on this type of question, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, I think that again, I think sometimes we give the admissions committees a little bit too much credit for how deeply they delve into the minutia of your application. To this point, oh, he's taken, because at the time you're applying as a senior, you're going to be in your application year, or you're going to be in the year already, typically. And so you're going to only say on your application, I plan to take anatomy, pharmacology, and medical terminology. And planned on classes are not the same as I already took this and here's my grade.
Yeah.
And so I think you need to, if you're interested in these classes, go for it. That's great for your own benefit. It's certainly not going to hurt your application, and it might help it, but I don't think you should do it for the purpose of the application itself. I think that smacks too much of check off a box. Yep. I took this, so I check off that box, and it's going to make me look good. So if you want to take it, but don't do it because you think it's going to look good.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, and don't do it because you think. My last point was, medical schools aren't looking for people who already know medical terminology, right, already know anatomy, physiology, already know XYZ. Like, right, that's what medical school's for.
Yep.
To sit at home and watch sketchy videos.
Yep.
Right. Now, I mean, I have heard students say, I want to take anatomy and physiology so that I'm seeing it again in med school, and that's fine. But yeah, admissions committee. Yep.
Yeah.
Different question. All right.
Lowry, how badly does an institutional action warning, an unintentional plagiarism, kill an app in your experience? So to me, I think we've had this question before where it's like, was it an institutional action or was it a warning? And Lowry's saying here, it's a warning. Therefore,
I
it's
would
not
say
an
that's
institutional action, right?
Exactly. I agree with that. I completely agree with that.
You don't need to put it on the application.
Right.
Yeah.
Is this something where they should check in with the registrar and just or whoever it is and say, is this going to show up if someone pulls my transcript?
Yes, definitely. Because if it shows up on the transcript, you absolutely got to put it on the application. But I would say in this case, if it's a warning and it doesn't appear on the transcript anywhere, then I would say no, don't put it on there because it's not an actual action.
Yeah.
Okay, so assuming it's not a warning and it is actually an action, then let's get to Lowry's question. How badly does it kill an app?
No, I don't think it kills an app.
Yeah.
I think you explain it, particularly in this case where if they define it as unintentional plagiarism, then I think you just explain what happened and say, and again, Ryan and I both talk about this a lot, which is timing is pretty important. If this happened as a freshman, that's going to be, a lot different than if it happened as a junior or senior. But even in that case, unintentional plagiarism, to me, that says, I didn't mean to do it. I maybe didn't even know I did it, but I did it. And so I learned from it, and that's all I can say. So, yeah.
That's interesting. So I read that the other way. I don't know how plagiarism could be unintentional. And, Lowry we'll have a story to tell, right? If it's actually on his transcript, he's going to have to talk about it. But I would just want to make sure that there's no hint of, it wasn't my fault.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many students I've heard say, like, I got accused of cheating because I didn't know to have lots of tabs open during an online test. Yeah. Okay, well, it's 2021. Now we all know, right? No one gets that excuse anymore. It sounds ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I am not saying that that's what's happening here. I'm just saying that anytime somebody makes it sound like not my fault, I think, are you ready to talk about this in an adult way?
Yep.
So where I've seen this type of language around before, unintentional plagiarism, is not properly citing something.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, okay.
Yeah.
So
should have put that in quotes, should have cited it. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. So Lowry, do some research here. Figure out if it's actually on your transcript.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Marie asks, I work as a scribe at a couple hospitals' EDs, and I do the medical school HQ e-shadowing. Should I try to find time for in-person shadowing experience too? See. Why not?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't spend like hours and hours and hours researching and trying and, running into a brick wall constantly and, just, really beating yourself to death about trying to get it done. But I put in some effort and see if you can do it. And if so, great. And if not, I wouldn't worry about it.
Scribing is one of the easiest ways, I think, especially in an ED, to get shadowing experience. And some schools will say, oh, scribing, we kind of consider that shadowing, so don't worry about it. But scribing is easy because all you really need to do is say, hey, Dr. Smith, or hey, ER manager, whoever, supervisor, after my shift, can I stay an extra hour or two and just hang out? And instead of scribing, can I just tag along? Right. And you're already there. You're already allowed to be there and around patients and whatever. So that's the easiest thing in my mind to do.
Absolutely. Completely agree with that.
Tirth asks, I'm an immigrant and started a nonprofit in the fall of 2021 to assist refugees and immigrants in the U.S. I am scared it's directly not related to healthcare. Should I hesitate to include it on my application? Absolutely not.
No, everything doesn't have to be medically related.
Yeah.
Especially volunteerism and, starting a nonprofit. That's cool stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a big myth out there. It's like, oh, the 15 slots on the AMCAS application is only for medically related things. And therefore I only have 4.
Nope.
Not the case.
We did a series, Scott led it, I guess 2 springs ago now, that was about the competencies that med schools are looking for.
Yep.
And there are lots of ways to prove those competencies. So activities that show teamwork, that show leadership, that show empathy, those Those things can come from pre-med or non-pre-med activities.
Absolutely.
All right.
Valerie asks, what is the difference between volunteering and clinical hours? For example, I volunteer at a hospital at a COVID vax clinic. So would that be considered clinical as well? The common clinical volunteering confusion, Rachel, cleared up once and for all. The last time we'll ever talk about this.
Or until a week or two. Okay, let's start with this. Any activity you do, whatever hour you're counting it to, you only count it in one category. So there might be some things that you could qualify under one or the other, but you're only going to count that hour once. Clinical experience, which is sometimes called direct patient care experience, is really, really important. It is an absolute must for you on your journey to med school, not just because it looks good for applications, but because you, Valerie, have to prove that you really like clinical experience. So if you're doing something that could be counted as clinical, it can be paid or unpaid, and you can count it as clinical. But if you want to count it as volunteering instead for whatever reason, you will notice when you go to the AMCAS activities, there's clinical paid, there's clinical unpaid, and then there's volunteer community service. You could put it under either, but I don't know why I would pick volunteering if it's clinical. Usually when we're talking about volunteering, that's community service. We're talking about doing work for underserved populations, for underrepresented people. So, working in soup kitchens, Habitat for Humanity, that kind of thing.
Yep.
So, but don't worry about whether or not your clinical work is paid. Either paid or unpaid is great.
Yep. Agreed. Well said.
Thank you. Thank you.
Here we go. Chop that one up. We'll put it out there. Never answer it again. Priscilla asks, if you're applying to only one school, home state cannot relocate, should you apply early decision or wait to higher your chances on a scholarship? So again, this is very interesting. So this early decision scholarship connection is the same connection that students make with letters of interest or letters of intent and scholarship. Students will say, if I'm applying early decision, that's telling the medical schools that I really want to go to their school. Therefore, they have no incentive to offer me a scholarship. And I don't think you can make that correlation. So the question would be, what does the school do for early decision? Number one, do they offer early decision? Not every school does early decision. And number two, reach out to the admissions committee and say, like, hey, here's who I am. I'm planning on applying early decision. Like, let me know. Some admissions committees I've heard from students want to talk to students who are planning on applying early decision to kind of weed out, like, no, you shouldn't apply early decision, or here's what you should do to set yourself up for success, kind of stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that completely.
So,
but my initial reaction to this question is, this is the kind of person that should apply early decision, depending on the school, of course. But if you know that this is a school you want to go to for whatever reason, this is where you want to go. That's what early decision is really created to do and for. And so I think my guess is that, yes, that's going to be the appropriate direction. And then if you don't get in early decision, you go into the general pool later. So,
yeah. Caleb, I plan on retaking calculus for the third time, and I have to take statistics and physics in my postbac in order to get a PAC into a PAC DPT program. Okay. How will these classes help in a DPT or PA career? So I'm less concerned about the classes and more concerned potentially on where, at least where Caleb is in his training. Like, being a physical therapist and being a PA are very, very different things.
Yeah.
You need to figure that out first.
Yeah. I agree.
And those classes don't help in the career. Those are
Especially
just-
calculus. I mean,
especially, yeah.
stat probably helps a lot more than
Yeah.
either one of the other ones.
Geometry for maybe DPT, where you're like, oh, the knee and the angles
right.
and the
Right. Yeah, that is unless I worked at an institution that offered a physics class on the physics of the human body.
That's
And
cool.
that was really super cool. It was a very popular class,
Mhm.
but it didn't count toward the physics requirement, which
Mhm.
is kind of screwy, but nonetheless. But I agree with you completely. PA and physical therapy are very different. And
Yeah.
you need to figure that out.
Yeah. And almost none, if not all of the classes that you take in undergrad have no bearing on your career.
Right.
So don't take it. I don't know if he's asking the question as in, wow, if I can't pass calculus 2 times, 3 times, whatever, therefore I'm not going to be a good PA or a good DPT. Like that, there's no correlation there.
Right.
Danny asks, I studied nursing school in another country, but I could not finish because I moved to the US. Should I include it on my application as clinical hours? So, yeah, if you did clinical stuff, put it on there.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Yeah, if your nursing school included rotations or something, that's great. Our typical caveat for that is you should still get clinical here in the States.
Agreed.
Because you need to have clinical in
the US.
In the US, in the place where you're going to be practicing medicine, to see what it's like here.
Yep. I'm pretty impressed, by the way, as a little side note, how many people we have watching us, just a few days before, Christmas, and we're in the midst of the holidays for a lot of different faiths. And so I'm very excited about how many people we got on the live show today.
Yeah, well, they don't have exams. They're done with school.
Right.
They got a little more free time in the day.
Yeah.
Maybe they're on Instagram at the mall. They're halfway watching that, halfway looking for presents at the last minute.
IG's actually slacking. There's only a couple people on IG. Usually it's a lot more. So I'll hang it on YouTube today. Leanne, back again. I have 120 credits. Is it beneficial to get a postbac or SMP, currently sitting at a 2.4 cumulative? All right. So Leanne's asking the right question. She's like, I know my 2.4 is not good enough. What do I do next? Dr. Wright, the historic SMP versus postbac question.
Yeah. So the first point I would make is the question says, is it beneficial? Absolutely. With a 2.4 cum, you're not going to be going anywhere. You need to show that you can do the work at a high level. Now the question becomes, do I do it in a postbac program, or do I do it in a special master's program? And I think that an argument could be made either direction on that. I like undergraduate postbac programs, but I'm not saying that I'm opposed to SMPs. Some SMPs are great. And some postbac programs are great. I think there are some postbac programs that are created as cash cows for their undergraduate institution. And I've seen some that I wouldn't really want somebody to go to because that's why they were created. Mm-hmm. And I don't think they really do what they anyway, I have a bad attitude about that. I'll admit that up front. So, but I would say look carefully. There's a lot of postbac programs out there to look at and to evaluate and see what's what. And but yes, the first question is yes, it's beneficial. The second question being undergrad postbac or SMP or whatever. And I would just say you need to look at it. Some of it depends on your financial aid. If you're in an undergraduate program, if you've maxed out your undergraduate financial aid in terms of federally funded stuff, then you may be forced to go into a special master's program because other financial aid comes available in graduate programs. So there's that piece of the puzzle that you need to consider. And the postbac programs or SMPs can help you kind of think through that and evaluate that. And so I would say you need to look at all of it and see what's going to be workable and best for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just realized why there's nobody watching on Instagram, because my sound setup, I did something different today. Nobody could hear. They could see us, but they couldn't hear anything.
Oh,
Well, hopefully they saw that rolling bar that said, come join us on map.tv over on YouTube.
Yeah. I had a pinned comment there too that said that.
that's funny.
Okay.
Caleb asks, I'm currently preparing to apply to medical school in the next cycle. I took several classes before going to college, so I'm graduating a year early. This means I will be applying at the age of 20. Is this a bad thing? We get this a lot. 17, 18, 19, 20. Some of those go-getters out there who are trying to hurry up with their life. I don't know why. They're rocking and rolling. Scott, what are some negative things that could come from a younger applicant?
Well, I think applying as a 20-year-old is a lot different than applying as an 18-year-old. It will be viewed very differently. And, we had, I remember one year at UT Southwestern, we had triplets that were 16 that applied. And, incredible. Obviously, they're incredibly intelligent and all that stuff, but that was too young. And we then made the rule that you had to be at least 18 to even apply. And so, but 20, I wouldn't worry about it too much. The big thing is always going to be maturity, and they're going to be looking very much deeper into the application to see what you've done. They're going to look very closely at the letters of recommendation to see if they have anything to say about level of maturity or, abilities to communicate well and to act appropriately, that kind of stuff. And then the interview is going to be very important, as it is with everybody. But one of the things an interview of a younger student is going to be looking at is the level of maturity as displayed in the interview.
Yeah, my biggest thing with younger applicants is usually, have you had the time to confirm? Have you had the time to get the clinical experiences that you can then write about in your essays and talk about in your interviews?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Erica, I thought you did that intentionally to get us to tune in on YouTube. That's a good trick. Maybe that's why we have so many people on YouTube today. Next time I do it, I'll be like, no sound for you. Come to YouTube.
I'm here, but you can't hear me.
I think you give Ryan a little bit too much credit.
Yeah.
I'm kidding, everyone. I'm not being mean to Ryan. Well, maybe.
Iaguayo, if you want to attend medical school to become a physician, but another goal for my MD is to later in life become a dean of a medical school, is it bad to mention this? Interesting. What do you think? We need all types of people.
I would say, so to that, I would say I would not mention that your goal is to be a dean of a medical school. I would reframe it to say, I'm interested in medical education. I would be very interested in going into working at a medical school in the medical education part of the field and really work with students. And, I would frame it that way as opposed to, I want to be the dean.
I want to be the boss.
Yeah.
Oh, power tripper, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, right, exactly. We definitely need people in medical education. This reminds me a little bit of when people say, well, I know I want to be a trauma surgeon and it's the only specialty I want to be in. So should I put that in my personal statement? Well, I wouldn't put it in your personal statement because that's not what the question asks. But also just keep in mind that med schools know that usually once you get to med school, you change your mind about how you still want to be a doctor, but you change your mind about what kind of a doctor. So it's good to show that humility of, I'm going to get there and learn, and we'll see where my path takes me. Even if you have an idea, just to be open to change.
Yeah. Guardbot, bachelor's grad, 3.1 cumulative GPA from a foreign institution with lots of clinical and research. Just got admitted to a U.S. university and allowed to read as a freshman undergrad. To continue or to apply to medical school? I have no idea what that question is.
Oh, so by read, he just means start as a freshman undergrad. Yeah. So I think what Gard is asking is, can he apply to med right now, or does he need to take courses at a U.S. university? And yeah, you guys are nodding, right? So GARD, unfortunately, U.S. med schools are very biased against foreign education. So unless that foreign institution is Canada, you are going to have to take some credits at a United States-based college or university before you can apply to med school here. Yeah, 90-ish.
Yeah, at least, yeah.
So yeah,
I would just plan on getting another degree, frankly. I mean,
Yep.
Good luck. Sorry,
yeah, and the other degree potentially comes with the benefit, depending on how you've done it already. If you have, or maybe you haven't, you don't have to transfer those credits from your international institution to the U.S. Therefore, you can start here with a clean slate, get a 4.0, and then that nobody knows about the 3.1.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Lunas. Due to COVID, my school allowed us to opt out of getting letter grades and receive an S for satisfactory instead. How would that count towards cumulative GPA for medical school? It won't.
It won't count.
It's pass-fail. Pass-fail grades do not count towards your GPA.
Now, what about pass-fail for prereqs? Is that going to be okay to have an S on a prereq?
I think that depends on the school. Some schools are going to probably accept that. And, within the context of COVID, I'd be kind of surprised if schools said, no, we won't accept a pass or an S. But, it's completely up to them.
Yep, it varies.
Yeah.
And related to that, similar question.
Blake asks, how do AdComs view medical school prereqs taken at community college? I've never heard this question before. What's community college? This is our other kind of soup of the day question.
All right. Well, let's spotlight you. We'll put up a banner. We'll see if we can make a snippet out of it.
Why do I want Scott to answer it?
All right. Let's spotlight Scott.
Wait, what? I was being quiet. I didn't say anything.
You're the academic expert.
So, the question is, AdComs it varies a lot in terms of how they're going to view that. I think most admissions committees are going to really look at how you did in the community college setting in terms of grades in your classes, and how you did once you transfer to the university setting in those classes. And if you're consistent, or if you go up, then that's going to be much better than if you were making really good grades at community college, then you got to university and the grades went down. That will be viewed as not great. You don't want that downward trend. You want it to be consistently good. You want to make sure that everything looks great. If you're making A's at community college, make A's at university. That's the goal there. But generally speaking, I think they're going to view the community college grades within that bigger context and try to understand you as a person, not necessarily just, oh, he took community college grades or whatever. They're going to really be looking at the bigger picture of it all.
Great. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Let's see. We're getting a lot of Merry Christmases and Happy New Year's, which is nice, but I'm just looking for other questions. Here we go.
Mantos. Hey, Mantos is back. My prereqs. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, let me know.
No.
My prereqs. What?
Hank Green did a video a few weeks ago that was like ladyfingers, Mantos. And now that's just, I assume that's a reference to that TikTok, but that's also a very niche response to that name.
You also love Hank Green, so I don't know.
do. I love me some Green brothers.
Yeah. Did you listen to their interview with Ryan Reynolds?
Heck yeah, I did. Hank's had a crush on Ryan for years. I was so excited for him that he got to have Ryan on his show.
That's funny.
Well, a lot of people have a crush on Ryan Reynolds. I'm just saying.
Mostly only straightish men who aren't as straight as they think. But yeah, a lot of people. All right, let's answer Manto's question.
Mantos. My prereqs don't have the classic biolg or chem class codes. For example, my OChem class has a FDSC class code. Would AAMC look at all my class codes and wonder if they are science courses? You're not the only person from your school, Mantos, that has likely applied to medical school. So have no fears. What the AAMC does, Scott, you can talk about TMDSAS, but they have a team. Unfortunately, AAMC's team is very small because they're very slow with their whole verification process. But they have a team that will look at that. And if you literally are the first person from that school that has applied, they'll go, oh, I've never seen this course classification. I've never seen this specific course before. Let me go pull up the syllabus. Let me go talk to the school. Let me go figure out what they're teaching and if it qualifies for X, Y, or Z.
Yep. That's exactly how it works.
Yep. All right, here's a good one.
Facebook user for the Application Academy course. I'm assuming AA course. How does it work for those applying in 2022? Do we all go through the app cycle together since the course is about 10 months? Yeah, that's exactly how the course is formatted, at least for now. We go together and we start in January. We start working on personal statement and talking about all of everything that you need to know at that point in time. And we literally kind of go through the whole application and then interviews in a timely manner as a cohort. And so it worked really well last cycle, and we're doing it again this next coming cycle. If you go to applicationacademy.com, you can sign up, and we start on the 18th.
Awesome.
It's going to be good. We're going to have even more office hours this year. Last year, Ryan did it solo. This year, Scott and Brittany and I are going to be a part of it. It's still going to be a lot of Ryan, but you'll have even more resources and even more people to do office hours, which means even more sessions of office hours each week. Try to make sure, although it's group, that there's as much time for live interaction as possible.
Absolutely.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
All right.
It's weird. I'm like, oh yeah, AA. Come do AA with us.
Hello, my name is Scott.
and I am a pre-med.
Hello, Scott.
I love it.
I'm going to tell you about my story when I hit my pre-med rock bottom and I got a B-.
It works. It works.
I should not make fun. Okay. One more Application Academy question.
Vanity, hello. Dania, how are you? Is there a syllabus for the Application Academy? I already have a January schedule and want to adjust ASAP. So not a syllabus per se, but I don't know if I put it on there already. I know I was working on, we're switching platforms for this next coming cycle. So I put it on one platform, maybe not the other, but no, there's not, and I will get one in the academy today because we have a rough idea of what that looks like. It'll be Tuesday afternoons from 3 to 5 Mountain, 5 to 7, I think, Eastern. Friday from, I don't know off the top of my head. I was gonna say Friday 1 to 3 potentially.
Yeah.
I think.
And then Wednesdays, I think
Eastern.
6 Mountain. Yeah.
And then Wednesdays 8 Eastern for office hours. 2 hours Tuesday, Friday, 1 to 2-ish hours Wednesday, and then potentially TA office hours as well. We have a TA this cohort, which is awesome.
Yeah. And I want to get back to more pre-med questions, but just while we're quickly on Application Academy, we will post that schedule on applicationacademy.com as soon as it's firmed up. And then all of the sessions are available for replay. So some of them are going to be kind of lecture-y, some are going to be group review, some are going to be open Q&A. There'll be a mix, and we'll make sure that you know the dates and times and that you have a sense. Things may change because it's like any class. Sometimes the syllabus evolves based on how people are going, but we'll make sure that people have an idea of what to expect.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, let's see.
Dietrichs asks, I'm a non-trad working full-time as a scrub tech. It's very hard to find a volunteer position with my actual schedule. Where? Oh, they created a YouTube channel where they help people join the Army. Is that?
Oh, I see. It's a double.
Volunteering.
I feel like we kind of got at this just a few minutes ago, and maybe you missed that, Dietrich, but volunteering and clinical are not always the same. Volunteering can mean community service. It usually means helping people who are in underrepresented populations. So I don't know about recruiting for the Army. It's not really what I think of. I'm thinking about reaching out to groups of people and helping them and helping individuals, as opposed to recruiting for the Army, which you could see as potentially helping people find a purpose, but it's also helping the government. So I don't know. I don't know that that's what I would think about. I'm thinking about things that are more like, look around your town or city or state. Who's really in need? What are you doing to help those groups?
Yeah.
That's what I think of when I think of volunteering.
My guess is that starting a YouTube channel was to be like, I'm going to blow up a YouTube channel and get lots of AdSense advertising to make money, which is obviously not volunteering. But yeah, to your original point, Rachel, my guess is that the question is, I work full time in a clinical setting, but I don't have time to get volunteer clinical, and you don't need to do that.
Yeah. Clinical can be paid or free.
Yep.
Right.
Cool. One more quick one.
Cool.
Jessica asks, any advice for ending the personal statement? I feel like I know what I want to write about, but I'm not sure about tying it together and writing the ending. So there's this random book I found at the bookstore one day. I don't know who the author is, but it looks pretty good. The Pre-Med Playbook Guide to the Medical School Personal Statement. The conclusion is kind of an important part of anything. How you finish strong. But yeah, my how I teach students, how I tell them to write a conclusion is to go big, right? Big picture, what are you hoping to accomplish as a physician? I often tell students to think about, what do you want your patients to say about you when you retire? Think kind of grandiose in that way of like, you are going to give me a diploma that will allow me to practice medicine. And here's my vision for how I'm going to take that and impact people.
Love it.
I love it too. And it's a good reminder that, hey, if you want more help with your personal statement.
Application Academy.
And not everyone likes group coaching, which Application Academy is. And so we do have advisors for one-on-one stuff as well, including Dr. Wright and Rachel and Vernia, who's not here today, but if you're looking for that as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. Facebook user says, can we purchase Application Academy up to the 18th? Yeah, it'll be open probably through January, and then I'll shut it down a couple weeks in. That's what I did last year.
Yep.
All right.
So this is last Ask the Dean of 2021. We're going to take next week off.
Wow.
So as always, we love having you here with us. And we'll look forward to seeing you on Wednesday, the 5th of January.
Yeah. And happy holidays to everyone out there.
Happy holidays. Yeah.
Yep.
Take care.